To keep this great momentum started. Appreciate Admiral Clapperton being able to join us and get us off to a rousing start on the third day of West. I'm not going to do a long introduction for my colleague here, Captain Braswell. He is one of our outstanding officers, and he's in an important role for the Naval Information Warfare Development Center, working with the other warfare development centers across the Navy to provide the forces that the fleet needs.
Okay, great. Thank you. Perfect. Hey, good morning, everyone. Captain Brian Braswell here, the commander of the Naval Information Warfighting Development Center. I appreciate those of you who stuck around to hear what I have to say. Admiral Clapperton's a hard act to follow, and I understand he signed me up for hard questions, but I will be ready. I've got some notes here to work off of, but I will undoubtedly miss something, and so I do look forward to your questions at the end. So I appreciate you sticking around again, and I appreciate your interest in your United States Navy's Information Warfighting Development Center. It's been hit on by a number of speakers, kind of the clarion call for information warfare integration across all domains of the fleet and of warfare. I think I'll provide a little bit different context today. A lot of the speakers so far have really been speaking at the high operational or strategic levels of war. You know, Admiral Studeman yesterday gave a really, really great strategic sort of rundown of our pacing threat. My command's business, however, is focused on the operational and tactical levels of war. And so that's where I'll be most oriented today. Up front, I'll hit 2 points that aren't in my notes, but they got teased out here as a function of the previous brief. First of all, to allies and partners, you know, it's clear to me the level of interest that our allies and partners have in understanding what we are doing at NIWITIC and in our weapons school and the tactics that we're driving into the fleet. So we do work closely with our allies and partners in sharing, to the extent that we can, what we're doing in the fleet. You know, our doctrine, tactics, TTP, and what we're teaching in our weapons school. Secondly, I'll skip to my last bullet over here on integrating and synchronizing. You know, I'll underscore the word synchronizing. You know, Admiral Clapperton covered a lot of ground on what the Navy is doing in cyber. Cyber is not my focus beyond, you know, understanding shipboard networks and assuring command and control in the fleet. So synchronizing some of the effects I think that were discussed or touched on earlier, and how those integrate with what we're doing in the fleet should the fight come is an important piece of the business that we do at NIWITIC. So look, my job is to make the fleet ready to fight and win should it come to that. I'll underscore the word ready and tease out a couple of nuances there. First, a couple of days ago, we had the good fortune to hear from Ms. Tammy North, the IW Readiness Directorate. She is a great partner of NIWITIC. You know, and as she focuses on manning and equipping readiness, there's a seam as we move into the training, and I'll talk about what NIWITIC is doing and IWTG, our subordinate command, in the training realm. So I'm focusing more in line with the topics of the conference here on readiness and capability, right? So those two of the three pieces are where I will focus. So what I'll do is I'll step through sort of my lines of effort and focus areas at NIWITIC in no priority order, starting with afloat training. So yesterday you heard Vice Admiral Ashback mention that we had taken responsibility for all information warfare training in the basic phase. That is executed by the Information Warfare Training Group, IWTG, led by Commodore Nick Shepard. That's recent as of last fall, and so we're delivering that to the fleet today. I am most focused at the NIWITIC headquarters level on intermediate and advanced training in the fleet. And I'll talk in a little bit about the closed loop nature of that and how that touches on our other mission areas. So just a couple examples here. You know, the IW seminar is built into the OFRP on both coasts. You know, it's a week to allow the IW teams to get together along with representatives from the other warfare commanders to focus on IW topics to include tactics and doctrine. You know, so I am working to drive more content from my weapons school and from what we're seeing in the fleet and what we're learning through experimentation and other things I will touch on into that seminar. That's underpinned by fantastic partnerships with Tactical Training Groups Atlantic and Pacific, who've been fantastic partners as we seek to up our game there. I'm also deliberately cultivating a deeper relationship with Carrier Strike Groups 4 and 15, our training strike groups on the East Coast and West Coast respectively, and I appreciate their partnership in working to drive more integration in the advanced phase of training. I'm also working more classroom and seminar type training and trying to develop more curricula that can be delivered in short order to strike group teams as they move through the OFRP toward the latter stages. And then I'm prioritizing our investment into Surface Warfare Advanced Tactics and Training, SWAT, in support of the Surface and Mine Warfighting Development Center. So that's a priority of mine, is delivering more IW capacity to support SMITIC's execution of SWAT. Key element of training, you heard yesterday my boss say LVC is her #1 priority. So of course I'm fascinated by it. I'm actually, our team is leading a lot of the IW LVC efforts underway. Very much a team sport. We partner closely with Naval, NIWC PAC, NSWC Corona, and others to really drive a fully integrated virtual training environment that's underpinned by simulation. I won't belabor the point. It's been made several times here, but I think for obvious reasons, we ought not and should not demonstrate and train to our capabilities for fear of exposing them. So the LVC environment really provides an opportunity for our operators on platforms to really learn and train with and operate their systems in that environment without exposing those capabilities. My end goal, and it's just a goal, just aspirational, would be to have brick and mortar training facilities in San Diego, Norfolk, and Japan, where we have instantiations of this LVC environment that's supported by the Dev Lab at my headquarters in Norfolk. Secondly, I'll move on to to NIWAS, the Naval Information Warfighting Schoolhouse. I'll draw your attention. This slide. If you were in this presentation last year, you'll notice the slide looks very similar, and I'll call, I think, a couple of key differences to your attention. So we redesigned the WTI patch to make it look a little more like other communities. Very plain, stands out. You can see the patch wearers from afar. Looks a little less like a command seal now. So that was deliberate. To review the history, we classed up our first warfare tactics instructor course in 2018. We have 176 WTIs in the fleet now. Just last week, we classed up our first COI of 2 in calendar year 23. I run 2 a year. And so we have 28 candidates, WTI candidates, that classed up last week, which, should they all successfully complete the program, would bring our WTI total in the community to over 200, which I think is a fantastic goal to achieve in only our 5th year of running that course. It's a personal goal of mine to better leverage our IW-WTI networks. Our aviation brothers and sisters have been doing this for many, many years, and so there's an art to leveraging those who don't work within our lifelines and yet wear a patch out in the fleet. Only about 30% of those who are out in the Navy and not at NIWC work for a boss, who wears this patch, wears this designator. So I try to leverage that network as best I can to bring that brain power to problems of consequence. With respect to the potential warfight. Our WTIs are battle-minded, approachable, and they embody the warrior ethos. Our course is 10 weeks. We start off with an initial baseline where all of our WTI candidates are in the same sessions, broadening their base of education on advanced IW warfighting. They then break out into 4 separate tracks, if you will, or subsections of information warfare, and then that's all brought together at the end as each of them execute a capstone project, again, on a topic of interest and importance to the warfight. In realizing the tri-service maritime strategy, we've had the good fortune so far to graduate 2 Marines and 1 Coast Guard officer as patched Naval WTIs. And I continue to seek the best of our IW junior officer cadre and senior enlisted cadre to come to the schoolhouse. I'm very happy with the talent that's been sent forward for this class that's in session right now. I had 50 applicants for 25 seats. You know, we work really hard to maintain an appropriate student-to-instructor ratio. I forced the schoolhouse to take a couple more because there were some candidates I just couldn't leave on the table. But all 50 of those were A-teamers. And so I had to leave 22 A-teamers on the table, and that hurts. I encourage them to reapply, and I ask both our IW enterprise leaders as well as fleet leadership who have spectacular young IW officers and senior enlisted working within their lifelines to continue to send that talent my way. Third, I'll touch on doctrine, innovation, and experimentation. So we work through, and this is a closed loop cycle in my mind, where we field capability, not me, the Navy fields capability. We experiment with it. We figure out how to employ it. We codify that in doctrine and TTP, and then we drive that into the schoolhouse. And by that I mean the waterfront schoolhouse, IWTG, and then our intermediate and advanced training opportunities. In FY22, we had over 20 plus pieces of doctrine issued. Some of those I signed out. Some of those were done in close partnership with NWDC, who is the authoritative source for doctrine in the United States Navy. So we're always seeking to improve how we employ these systems in the fleet, and then how we train to employing those systems in the fleet to make them better year over year over year. Experimentation is important as we experiment with these capabilities. Partner very closely with NWDC. I see Mr. Durkin here in the audience on fleet experimentation initiatives, so that we can get so we can drive information warfare focused experimentation into fleet battle problems and other places. I also seek to learn from all the fleet battle problems. I seek to put humans on the ships where these are taking place. To watch how they're doing it, to watch how to do it, to learn how to do it better, and then to come back and write that down and train to it. A recent focus of mine has been assured command and control, and how we assure command and control across all the missions the Navy has to execute. I think as you've seen, time of great change in how we are, in the number of systems, quality and quantity of systems we are delivering to the fleet from an AC2 perspective over the course of the next 3 to 4 years. I know Admiral Small had the opportunity to talk about those systems the other day, and it's my job to work to partner with he and the Nav War Team and others to operationalize those systems in the fleet. Fourth, electronic warfare. I won't stay here for long, but recently we moved the Electronic Warfare Directorate, responsible for, I would just say, big data analysis on global electronic warfare data, which then informs how we update our libraries, largely surface, but some others. For the execution of electronic warfare in the fleet. I've been focusing on Slick 32, Victor 6, and Victor 7, as those are delivered in increasing quantity to the fleet, and how we use those to drive our battle space awareness and then integrate in terminal defense. Partnering with IWS2 and with SMITIC on how we do integrate that into terminal defense. Fifth, AI and ML. So I lead for my boss our information warfare community's AI and ML efforts. Those are largely focused on electronic warfare and battle space awareness. In my mind, this is one of the top couple of places and opportunities, I would say, for partnership with industry. So look, that covers my main LOEs. So in closing, you know, you can see here, creative, driven, tenacious, sort of the watchwords of the command. You know, I focus on the creative part. You know, I think creativity is vital to our business at NIWIDIC, and it's going to be vital. Creativity is vital to getting us in a position to fight and win, should we be called upon to do that. And so I emphasize that both in developing tactics and employing our IW weapon systems at sea. So that's the end of my prepared remarks. I appreciate your time and your interest, and I'm standing by to take any questions that you might have. Okay, Nicole.
Thanks, Brad. When I was seeking to, I'm pretty sure I don't need this, but You're probably running a recording. All right. When I was seeking to flex on using the other warfare tactics instructors from other disciplines to get after some of our challenges of employing the tools that the Overmatch family of systems brings to us, I was able to do fleet temp polls and find where all these humans were in the world, right? I was able to find that, this lieutenant that was a warfare tactics instructor that specialized in, let's say, mine warfare is now the XO on DDG something, and that's probably not the guy who's going to have time to help me right now. In the information warfare spectrum, I was not able to source out these humans. Any thought being given to being able to track the officers with an AQD or the senior enlisted with some sort of designator so that we can source that information without pressing on your staff, sir?
No, I appreciate that, Nicole. And for those who don't know, Captain Shine here is part of Vice Admiral Ashback's team here in San Diego, and a close partner of ours as we work the training continuum for Overmatch and AC2 more broadly. Hey, so Nicole, to your point, is we do assign an AQD. We have different AQDs, so we have 4 different AQDs for our 4 different tracks. I personally routinely reach into PERS because they can very easily do a poll on those AQDs. Because I like to reach out to our COs inside the IW enterprise to ask for their help and allowing their people to come help us. Frankly, as we look at an upcoming fleet battle problem, we've actually brought in some of those humans that don't work for me. They work for others, but then are going to come help us observe and write. Secondly, we have a fleet liaison officer in our weapons school who tracks all of these humans who we have put patches on and where they are and what they're doing in their focus areas. And so that fleet liaison officer, I think, can be of help here. So between those 2 mechanisms, NIWIDIC is ready to help do that, not only for you, but for anyone who wants to reach into that network for a very specific purpose. Thanks for the question. Oh, Dave.
Hey, Braz. It's great to see you, and great talk. I actually had no idea NIWIDIC was doing that much. So on the matter of cycle times for doctrine and training and tactics development, so you probably know better than we do, but we're getting very precise clues from the acquisition community that rapid acquisition, rapid fielding, continuous integration, continuous delivery is going to go on faster and faster cycle times. So how are you pondering, speed of doctrine development, speed of training delivery, so the sailors, the crews don't kind of get left behind by technology that's cycling over at a faster and faster pace?
No, I appreciate the question, Dave. I could probably give you a 30-minute answer on that because there's a lot of ground to cover there. I won't subject you all to that. I'll say a couple things I think here. I think that where appropriate for sort of those really intense, deep, complex systems that do require a substantive degree of training, that I think we'll be able to keep up, in conjunction with our partners down at CWIT and others, right? What I would say is, and I think the other part of this space are those tools that are intuitive, right? As I think about it, I've never gotten a moment of formal training on any app on my Android, right? And so there's a middle ground here where a lot of, the power of what's coming to the fleet for AC2 is it's sailor driven. Sailors get inputs on what's working and what's not, if the GUI is good or if it's not. And in this increased cycle time, as you mentioned, they're able to update and push to the fleet. But a lot of that is intuitive, right? And so I'm personally actually heartened at our ability, because I think it closes the loop even more on our ability to deliver something, get feedback on it, update it in a common, DevSecOps environment, understood security, understood platforms, and then be able to deliver it back to the fleet. So are there some of those things that require training? Sure, but I think the delta, from that original baseline training to then kind of what's next is different. The rapidity with which we are delivering new capability to the fleet does outpace our ability to put that in a classroom, in Pensacola and other places. So that's why it's incumbent upon, Captain Chris Bryant at CWIT and myself to have a really synchronized relationship on what's not in the classroom, and then how can I help in conjunction with IWTG get that into the basic phase training, and then hit key points on employment of those systems in the intermediate and advanced phases. Did I get it, Dave? All right. All right, what else?
So, hi, Rob Harcourt, UK. I think every speaker over the last 2 or 3 days has mentioned the importance of allies and partners. If you look at all levels of US policy and doctrine, it talks about allies and partnerships. So, conscious that you have classification and access challenges, do you have any foreign officers on your staff? Any thoughts towards that? Because, of course, the more we understand your doctrine, the better, and the more you understand ours, the better. So when we do ultimately work together, we have that intuitive feel. And by extension, and this is probably an even harder challenge, any chance of getting foreign officers onto your WIDI course. My previous job was in the Pentagon as an exchange officer. I had a US officer come on one of the first WIDI courses. Superb course, superb officer. We want a bit of it.
No, I appreciate the question. You know, I think some of my sister WDCs are a bit ahead of us here. I'll say a couple things. One, I look for every opportunity that I can, and it doesn't have to be in the classroom. It doesn't have to be in my building. I look for every opportunity I can to work with partners. And I won't go into specific examples here, but we've taken advantage of some of those opportunities in a number of instances. So I'm always open and seeking those opportunities. With respect to, billets, on our staff, we're in a resource-constrained environment, and there's nothing I would love more than to have, partner billets, fully integrated into our weapons school, fully integrated into NIWIDIC writ large. But to do that today, I have to give up one of my billets, right? So I'm working right now to try and bring some capacity on board. Very aspirational, not real. But in a perfect world, I would be there. So I would just ask for everyone's help, not only yours, but everyone's help, and reaching out when those opportunities present themselves. I see a good deal of what goes on in the fleet and beyond the fleet, but I don't see all of it. I'm plugged into our, H1, Five Eyes working group and other things, so we routinely come to that table and talk. But that's not the depth at which I think we need to be partnering, and that's not lost on me. So I'm not sure if that fully answered your question, but yeah, I think about that a lot. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, Braz.
Hey, morning.
Eric Law from Esri. I noted you have an emphasis here, line of effort for AIML. Obviously, it's a point of emphasis across the software industry right now. What are your activities or points of emphasis along your AIML line of effort?
So I'll say a couple things here. One is I can't really get into specifics because I rapidly cross classification boundaries. What I will say in the macro is that we are focused on battle space awareness and electronic warfare in those areas. There's a number of, I'll just use the term task forces loosely, looking at AIML across the Navy and the DoD. We try to partner with them. They come together in a forum. I can't remember the periodicity. I think it's every 6 months, maybe 12 months. But we go to those forums. We share what we are doing, at a classified level. They share what they are doing, and we look for partnership. So I'd say our efforts are well scoped. Well-defined. We always seek additional opportunity to expand that. Again, this is where I'm capacity limited in humans and in funding, and so that's why we really seek to work through deep partnerships to kind of realize some of the power of AI and ML. I know that's not a great answer for you, but it's what I got.
Anybody else? Nice shot.
All right, thanks,
All right,
everybody.
thank you,
Appreciate the time and attention. Thank you.